My name is Rob Gamley. I'm the president and CEO of the company, and I have with me our technical advisor, Brian Balazs. Diving right into things here. We are focused on direct lithium extraction, or DLE amenable assets in Saskatchewan. That's pulling lithium from water. We have a big acreage block in 3 key project areas, namely Tyvan, Manser, and Viewfield. It's about 200,000 acres, predominantly crown mineral dispositions, and we're ideally situated with direct access to North American markets. It is at our Viewfield project where we recorded the highest lithium and brine concentrations in Canada to date based on publicly available data. We absolutely knocked it out of the park with up to 259 milligrams per liter. Direct lithium extraction has a lower environmental impact. It's much more ESG focused. You'd have about 90% less surface environmental footprint than what you would see at a salars or an evaporation pond in South America. It also allows for a faster production scenario compared to hard rock mining. In hard rock mining, you could be, somewhere near a decade in order to get all your permits, roads, power, et cetera, built. We could be in pilot production by Q1 2024 this year, which is our target, and larger production, within 12 months. The only delays to that would be with the manufacturing of a facility. We are in a joint venture with Regina-based Rock Resources. We have 75%, Rock 25%. Rock operates an almost 4,000 BOE per day oil field in Saskatchewan. They were a first mover in identifying the Saskatchewan lithium brine opportunity and did the workup on the properties. Myself, I have over 10 years experience in corporate finance and capital markets. I was formerly vice president of Contact Financial, a leading strategic communications firm based here in Western Canada. I'm also currently president, director, and a foundational member of Avanti Helium. I've helped raise over $35 million for that company as we look to put a helium asset in Montana into production later this year, early 2024. A few names I'd highlight on this slide are QP Greg Bronson and director Dr. Peter Pollard. Both have over 30 years experience in mineral exploration and development. Dr. Peter Pollard is certainly highly regarded in the industry with over 70 peer-reviewed scientific publications. Additionally, on our advisory board, we have Michael Kobler. He was former president and current general manager of U.S. operations for American Lithium Corp. And I'll just turn it over to Brian briefly to say a couple words about himself.
Thanks, Rob. All of my experience comes as a geologist working in the oil and gas world. So I spent about 15 plus years working in the Western Canada Basin, basically everything from southeast Saskatchewan up to northeast BC and everything in between, and then an additional 15 years working internationally. That was predominantly South America, although they did get a chance to look at some very interesting geology in the UK North Sea, offshore Spain, and even Southern Africa. And I'm finding those two skill sets are actually a really good match for looking for lithium in Saskatchewan right now.
Thanks, Brian. In regards to our project technical team, this comprised of Rock Resources, Cam Taylor, Bryden Wright, Jared Lakomsky. They were formerly with Villanova 4 Oil that was acquired by Torque. They've been operating in Saskatchewan for over 30 years. They have all the industry connections and contacts. They have built and run large-scale oil field brine lifting and disposal infrastructure, as well as drilling to all depths in the basin. So we have an on-the-ground technical team, proven technical team that's economically driven, paired with a seasoned capital markets and administration team. I'd really like to speak to the Saskatchewan advantage. Absolute pleasure to work there. In this jurisdiction, we certainly have an advantage. The provincial government is highly supportive of this emerging commodity as it diversifies its oil and gas and mining industries. It's ranked second in the world and first in Canada in the Investment Attractiveness Index, according to the Fraser Institute. We are located right in the middle of the Bakken oil field, so there's excellent infrastructure, roads, rail, power, natural gas, and access to a skilled labor force. I would also add that there's a clear mineral title There's not a lot of regulatory barriers or hurdles when it comes to permitting and water disposal. I'll turn it over to Brian for a bit more of the technical aspects of the presentation.
It's too forwarded. It's just this guy. Green. Okay, thanks, Rob. I'd like to start with a geological cross-section, and this basically illustrates the Devonian stratigraphy in Alberta versus Saskatchewan. The Devonian rocks in which lithium brines are hosted in Alberta are known as the Leduc Formation. You can see that on the cross-section there. And that changes rather abruptly to a formation called the Dupero Formation, which is time equivalent to those rocks in Saskatchewan. It's not just nomenclature. That transition is abrupt, and it actually gave some pretty big advantages for exploring for lithium in the Dupero. The sediments were deposited in completely different ways. The Dupero was a broad, shallow water platform carbonate. The reservoirs that it deposited are extensive, but they were restricted from the open ocean. There wasn't much circulation going on there. So what happened is you had multiple evaporitic cycles in the Dupero. What this did is it really concentrated that Devonian seawater and helped to enrich it with lithium brine. Okay, and those lithium brines, those ancient seawaters, are the actual aquifer brines that we are testing now and hope to be producing in the near future. Those brines are clean in contrast to Alberta. There's no hydrogen sulfide, there's no organics, and there's no residual oil. This means there's very little there's no pre-treatment required, and they are easy to process. We have a fairly shallow drilling depth of 1,800 meters, and based on this concept, you could expect to see significantly higher lithium concentrations in Saskatchewan than you do in Alberta. So this is kind of like the reality slide, which shows that that concept is absolutely true. If you look at, can I go back now? Yeah, can I do a laser on this or?
Yes, this one.
This guy?
Yeah.
Or the green?
Green.
Sorry about that. Yeah, if you start looking anywhere in central Saskatchewan in the Kindersley area, right up into northern Alberta, a very common theme emerges. What you see is that theme is fairly low to moderate lithium concentrations throughout the province, 50 to 75 milligrams per liter, and occasionally a little bit higher. These are all the published data from all of our peers/competitors. Well, the world changes quite significantly when you get into southeast Saskatchewan. Both Prairie Lithium and ourselves have reported flow tests from the Dupero that produced lithium at 111 and 200 milligrams per liter, respectively. Great results. I guess the takeaway from that slide, or at least my takeaway, is that if you want to explore for lithium in Western Canada, Saskatchewan is the place you want to be. So now we're blown up, and that you can see in the bottom corner here where we are, kind of an extreme southeast part of Saskatchewan. What we've done is blown up our properties in the Mansur and Viewfield areas. Our current land position is shown in blue. Each of these polygons is a square mile or one section. And what I'd like to do is just show you a little cross-section that connects up two wells that we re-entered in Mansur, 11 of 2 and 14 of 36 wells. We'll tie into a historical well, and then I want to compare that with our recent discovery that Rob alluded to, the 2 of 22 well in Viewfield. So this is a petrophysical log cross-section. The Dupero zone, I did it again, sorry guys. The Dupero zone of interest is colored in purple, and you can see we've divided up into about 8 different zones. The stratigraphy here is remarkably consistent, as it is all throughout southeast Saskatchewan. Basically, if you throw a rock anywhere within 30 kilometers of here, you're going to drill a well that looks something like this. We've superimposed on this, I've put in red the lithium concentrations that we've achieved from these wells. And I know there's a lot of numbers on there, so I can just summarize for you. In Mansur, 3 of the 7 zones that we tested have lithium concentrations above 75 milligrams per liter, up to a maximum of 148 here in what we call the Weimark Sea. These are really good results. This is good enough to eventually become a pilot project for us sometime in the near future. The Viewfield is even better, and this is the well that Rob mentioned. 6 of the 7 zones we tested came in at over 90 milligrams per liter, up to a maximum of 259. These are the best results in Canada so far for a lithium brine well. It's results that we're quite excited about, and we hope to capitalize on in the near future. This chart, the next question that comes up as well, how much did you guys find? How big is it, right? And this chart is basically an executive summary of our recently released resource assessment report. It's difficult to convey how much work went into these numbers here. Oh, sorry guys, I'm not used to this. We looked at over 300 wells, we did petrophysical analysis, and we employed a technique called stochastic modeling to account for those variations that we're seeing in lithium concentrations. The number that you probably want to remember here is in the top right corner. Let's round up. 1.2 million tons of lithium carbonate equivalent inferred resource in the Manser and Viewfield areas. It's about 2/3 Viewfield, 1/3 Manser. What's really interesting and what distinguishes us from all of our competitors is that we have applied a cutoff here, 50 milligrams per liter. Our weighted average lithium concentration at that cutoff is 143, basically double anything that you saw on that map in Alberta. If you scan down through this chart, you'll see that that resource is quite robust. If you want to hit it hard with a higher cutoff, like 75 milligrams per liter, and we actually don't know what the economic cutoff is. We know that lithium can be extracted below 50 milligrams per liter, but we're pretty sure that that won't be economic. So let's just say at 75, how much have we got? Well, we still retain 900,000 tons. This is about 80% of our resource, still valid if we apply a strong cutoff. Now, if our peers did this in Alberta, how much resource would they have? Just about none. So nobody has really, we haven't seen this. Like, we scoured through all the reports that everybody else is doing. We haven't seen anybody actually employ this method yet. So I think this is what really distinguishes us from our competitors right now. Where are we going with this? Well, we've completed our resource assessment report, as I mentioned, and we're currently in talks, oh boy, here we go, with, sorry guys, this one. We're currently in talks with a bunch of different DLE providers, direct lithium extraction. We've talked to 7 different companies already. We've been in this process for months, and we hope to complete it in the next couple of months. 2 of those companies actually have physical samples of our brines that they've processed in the lab. Okay, we know this is lab scale, bench scale, it's not in the field, but the results have come back great. And when I say great, I mean they were able to extract 99% of the lithium and reject just about all of the impurities into tiny amounts. Really, really good results. So we know that one of these will work for us, and we want to get this right. So we want to pick the company that has the appropriate technology for our particular brine. And part of the reason why we had such good results is where we started at. This brine is clean, doesn't require pre-treatment. Oil has never flowed through this system. It's quite interesting. All the Alberta stuff, they're ancient oil fields, so they have all kinds of nasty stuff in the pore space. Oil never flowed through in the Dupro except for one tiny field in Saskatchewan, so we don't have any of that in the brine. It's very, very clean. It's quite unusual. So what we'll continue to do is evaluate Manser and Viewfield. And in the short-term Viewfield, we actually have a well that we're going to spud in the next couple of weeks. It's going to be a step out to the north of Viewfield. From that well, we'll get more information on lithium, we'll get flow rates, and we'll get pressures. We will also set up that well, so we have the option of drilling 1 or 2 horizontals, probably 1 mile horizontals into the highest concentration zones. We're setting ourselves up for success in a pilot project. We do have the option also to re-enter a well at Manser and drill a new vertical well there in the future. That new vertical well that's on the list, dead look-alike to Viewfield. So we have no shortage of places to go. And finally, all of this information that we're going to be gathering is going to be fed into a PEA, a preliminary economic assessment. Really important document that we need. We've already engaged Sproul Engineering to help us with this. And again, our strategy is a little bit different from our peers. Rather than trying to map out 100 or 150 sections, we're going to focus in. And the idea being, let's prove commerciality in an area, a smaller area first, before we try and ask investors to invest in a massive capital project that's hundreds of millions of dollars. This is only 5% of our current land holdings. And as I mentioned, if we are successful here, and I think we will be, I can't see any reason why we wouldn't. There are no shortages of place to go. With just a tiny little bit of work, we can move north in Viewfield. We can go back to Manser, and we can drill to the south part of Manser again. It's like a stepwise approach, and it's a bit more prudent, I'd say, and a little bit more conservative approach than some other of our peers are employing. And finally, all of this is leading towards a pilot plant for the Viewfield area, and Rob mentioned that we hope to have that up and running in the first quarter of 2024. That's about it on my side. Back to you, Rob.
Thanks. Thanks again, Brian. We have just over 70 million shares issued and outstanding, about 50% of that to management insiders, family, friends, and the initial financing group. We completed a $5 million raise in March 2023 at 60 cents with a half warrant at 90. So the bulk of the warrants that you see here, 7.4 million are at 90, 4.2 are at 60, 4.2 are at 90, and 500,000 at 60 cents. We trade on the CSC under the ticker EMPS and on the OTCQB under the ticker EMPPF. Just in summary, we firmly believe that Saskatchewan will be the Saudi Arabia of lithium brines. We have numerous advantages where we have a high lithium concentration, 2 to 3 times that of Alberta. That's a key economic driver where grade is king in projects. We have a shallower drilling depth at roughly half the depth in the Dupereau versus the Leduc formation, so there's an operating cost advantage there. We have a great geological setting. We have a good reservoir quality, great porosity, great permeability that allows for excellent flow rates. We definitely have favorable brine characteristics. We don't have hydrogen sulfide to deal with. We don't have organics or residual oils. That's all requires a pre-treatment phase for most DLE technologies, so there's a cost savings there. Importantly, we have a proven economically driven technical team to advance the projects. We're in a low political risk jurisdiction with all the required infrastructure and skilled labor for a large-scale DLE project. We are fully funded for our near-term value-enhancing catalysts. And again, we're targeting pilot production in early 2024. And as far as lithium is concerned, despite the recent drawdown, we do see the demand for lithium being healthy and remain positive in our long-term outlook for the battery metal, owing to Canada's critical mineral strategy to enhance domestic supply chains, the electrification of the economy, and growing EV adoption. Thanks everyone for your time. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to come by our booth. And thanks again, Jen. Thanks everyone.